It's about time to continue with our series on our tetralogy. Doing these videos actually they make no sense. What is the use of it? The world is flooded with information about the state of humanity, and has got nothing come out of it. There is no use of it. One philosopher said a good philosophy is the one which is practical, the one we can use it. But actually philosophy is all practical knowledge. There's no theory. From theory and observation come the facts, and we learn from. What I try to do is to link the present state of the world affairs with the past, with the roots where it comes from, because it's not a matter of economics anymore, but it's a matter of mental state of humanity collectively. And collectively we say because we can take it from the educational system. That is the source from where the collectiveness is coming from. The well-known and free-mind movie maker and author Griffith, he is talking about collectivism in another sense, which at the end is the same result. But he does not talk about psychology, the mental state of humanity, which is formed and shaped in a way that cannot be denied it or changed it. The reason is, as I said before, the educational system is designed and schemed in a way which we are not able to dig in and find out the truth, because material out of the educational system around the world is prohibited or is being condemned as devilish, as communist, as hate material, any kind of an epithet which can serve the reasons of this system, the existence of this system. We come to the root and we go back to the time of Nero, the Roman emperor. At Nero's time flourished the development of the novel. In a free society and civilization, the Hellenic civilization, where freedom of thought and conscience was not questioned, never brought up for a discussion, because it was inherited in human mentality and functions freely as a right to a free man, never was questioned. So they never had a reason to doubt of something, and everything was being criticized, went through public criticism, and the credibility of the work came out, and according to its truth or falsehood. our subject is very deep and a long one as well. The information available takes volumes and volumes uncounted for. Therefore, our work is epigrammatically short. We'll give just the footprints of it, and the listener can go back and find sources which will give you and find more about it. I'll give you some works which were fiction, written during the Hellenic times. Ctesias wrote about the Persian fantasies. Xenophon wrote about Cyropedia, the education of Cyrus. Some Hellenistic authors, some of them, they wrote traveling literature. Some other wrote Milesian stories, Homeric stories. Achilles Statios, he wrote Leucippe and Clitophon. We have a book which is coming from Pseudo-Callisthenes about Alexander Romance. Lucian as well. This is some examples of fiction making, right? Novel writing. But the novels we have an interesting remark of Lucian saying that to be able to read a novel, you should be able also to detect the sources of it. That means Lucian wrote a number of fictions as well, which is very popular today, and he was one of the satirists, a very sharp one. He drew on literary traditions, as old as Homer, and he pays explicit homage to his ancient predecessors. During while he was fashioning the fabulous, the novel, the fantasy. Lucian himself said that the knowledgeable reader would be able to detect allusions to his many predecessors in what he was writing. Τον ιστουρωμένων έκαστον ουκ ακομοδίτος ήλικτε πρόστινας των παλαιών ποιητώντε και συγγραφέων και φιλοσόφων πολλά τεράστια μυθώδη συγγεγραφότων. Of course, Reader was an educated man. He knew the history and he could make it out. So there was a clear picture of what he was writing. He was reading. But the reason why that was unshakable and quite clear to the reader, it was because the past could not be broken up because it was so deep rooted in the history and the culture of the people. History means a serious investigation of or piece of research and all the residents of the Roman Empire. The word generally meant that the story as it was known and told. Disruptions of history in this sense could therefore be highly disturbing, breaking the familiar patterns that link past with present and in the same time signaling changes for the future. The violation of history as plot or the rewriting of it constituted a rupture in the cultural tradition. This is the comments of the important writer who wrote the book Fiction as History from Nero to Julian by G.W. Bowersock. He did this deep-rooted investigation and proved the true word. Some people try to break the past. It was known, I think Akhenaten, the pharaoh, did this thing. He burned the books and ancient records to wipe out the history of Egypt, and he wanted to rewrite it just to leave his name on it, that he was the originator of the history of Egypt. But at the same time, we have another one. We have another one who did the same thing. And this one was the Mexican king Aztec Tlacaelel. He burned all ancient records, rewrote the Mexican history to glorify his name. Of course, these guys are having psychological problems. Of course, they are nuts, megalomaniacs, we can also call them. At the time of Nero appeared some grand personalities who left their footprint on it. The great grand liars, the magnificent liars. But these people, they set foot on the novels of Hellenes and Romans wrote about, but also even later, early on, another guy he usurped Democritus. The name Volos from the Mendicius code. We find him in the Swedish lexicon. he usurped Democritus' titles and wrote his own fantasies and a type of alchemy, and the history became known later on that Democritus was an alchemist, and this infamy on Democritus depends on Volos' corrupted work and dishonest attempt to defame the great mind of Democritus. So we have sources and from the very deep time, and these guys, they also were very successful on this. We have the guy named Dictys from Crete. Listen to this man. Listen to this man. He is a grand stooge on the fabulous and the paranoical attitude and type of work he did. The guy says that he fought in Troy. He was present during the Trojan War. His work was written in Phoenician language. There is no language Phoenician, but he wrote it in Phoenician. Allegedly, the work he wrote was supposed to be discovered in a box and made known to Nero when he was visiting Greece. That means somebody went and told to Neron that they discovered that work in a box someplace. That book supposedly was translated from the original Phoenician into Greek, and today we possess a complete Latin translation of the Greek, but even a papyrus fragment with some of the Greek text itself. And they believe that this version of translation it was done during the Severus time. All the story, of course, is false. They made it up. All the itinerary of the hidden book, how it was discovered and how it was translated. It's just fantastic. And you know the problem? What is amazing is this fact. The fact is, gentlemen, that Dictys is being quoted in a very serious work that is written today by the it's a Greek woman, an academician, I guess, Anna Geropoulou Eustathiou. He wrote two big volume books, quite informative on the Greek language, and she quotes as a real source Dictys. This is a transgression, of education, of knowledge, of academic research, of course. We understand how much all this falsehood has been crept into the curriculum of our education and coming out to us today, and we take a lot of this information as a real source of knowledge. And this is being spread like a cancer throughout the Western world. And that's where our today education system is coming from. So this dictis has become a major figure responsible to defame his countrymen in our Hellenic times. Cretans were known to be liars, and dictis is the source of it. But this is not just because Cretans during the Trojan War, when Agamemnon was approaching the army and trying to give courage to his army, when he approached the Cretans, Idomeneus, the king of them, he said, Agamemnon, no need to come to us to encourage us, on the upcoming fight. We are brave ourselves. This is true. But the history is relentless on these situations, and the posterity remains. After Dictys, we have another guy, Darius, a Phryx from Phrygia. He was also writing funny stories, different stories as well. But the greatest of them all, who do you think is? Have you ever heard of somebody with the name Ptolemeus? Ptolemeus the quail. He wrote the book A Historical Paradox. Or he named the title The New History. Imagine, the new history. But the new history, Zosimos wrote it, but that was real history. But the guy, he tried to give his best self and mental condition to write that history. Bowersock comments on the quail work. He says both titles reflect the fact that it contains quite an irresponsible way that he was writing about quite famous stories corrupted. Listen what the quail did it. The guy, he refers to numerous sources. Sources which nobody else knows. He knows only himself, these sources. It's quite clear that he has came out of his mind. There's another guy called Philon, the Biblos, the Bible. Philon the Bible. He wrote another story also after the quail, with the same title. Χίνος also έγραψε the quail, I mean, Χίνος is in the Greek language, Χίνος is the quail, okay? The quail also wrote another two books named Anthomyros, which means an anti-Homer book, poem, and Sphinx, a historical drama. Both these works were lost. Ptolemy the Quail thought of Homer as his grand adversary. He wanted to be counted on the same par with Homer, and he felt hate of Homer because he was his great adversary. Martial, the Roman writer, also complained of verses that were being illicitly circulated under his name. The quality of these verses were far below of the authentic work of his, and he writes, Vose ut laquatur psitakas koturnisis. That means one would not expect a parrot to speak with the voice of a quail. He knew that that work was none other than the quail's work. And Bowersock says, even as he wrote his fabulous and incredible stories, no less fabulous and incredible stories were beginning to circulate in Palestine and Greek East. These were the stories of miraculous healings and resurrections, miraculous healings, and resurrections that were to exercise Kelsos and so many others in the century to come. And this is a direct reference element that Christianity that were coming up was nothing else but a big, undeniable lie. There is no proof of its existence, no sources of its historical writings, nothing at all. The historians, they lived around that time, no one mentions anything about it. And let me mention 28 writers of the time. Greeks and Romans. That means written in Greek language and Latin language. Arianos, Petronius, Seneca, Dion Prusias, Valeros Flacos, Floros Lucias, Quidilianos, Favorinos, Lucianos, Plinius the Elder, Appianos, Juvenal, Theon from Smyrni, Damis, Silios Italicos, Iulos, Gelios, Statios, Columelas, Martial, Plutarch, Apollonios Tianevs of Tiana, Possonias, Ptolemeos, Dion Chrysostom, Hermogenes, Lysias, Valerios Maximus, and Philon the Alexandrian. He was a Hebrew. 10 Greeks, 15 Romans. None of these gentlemen wrote anything about it. And if somebody mentions Josephus, the only Jew guy who wrote a history of Judea, you'll find an inserted comment on it. It's an insertion from external sources. Christians try to put their footprint on genuine historians. If you want to mention some of it, what is Christianity? Let me tell you about the great groundwork of Karl Heinz Dessner, the German renowned author, with 8 volumes of his book, The Criminal History of Christianity, will show. Karl Heinz Dessner says it should about Christianity. It should be a peculiar pleasure to swim into hundreds of years into a river of blood of humanity, and you to shout and to sing Alleluia. It should have been a peculiar desire to lie, to usurp, and to fool for 2000 of years. What else there is that sinister mixture of the howl of a wolf and the invitation for peace coming from a Christian message. Bonfires, legends of saints, and histories of executors. Where else we can find a long wasted stupidities about love, at the same time, and to pass the feeling of hate. Where else we can find a religion which from love it murders, tortures, steal, violate, dishonor, and curse. Should we call all of this a psycho situation, a psycho mental condition? Allah, no. This is called Christianity. A criminal history remains a criminal history. It's a jungle full of lies and half-truths. Karl Heinz Dessner, they call him the lawyer of the victims, the million of victims. Another guy, Hermann Gisselbusch, says about he gives credit to Karl Heinz Dessner. Ursula Newman says about Sabaremais need a lot of courage for the church to play the flag bearer of democratic values. It's quite a crazy, paranoid, the church to try to take hold, take share for itself on the human rights. Church says the inhumanity in human cultures, they try to find values which are in every culture, and they adapt it for itself. They don't feel shame of it. They stampede it upon human values and human integrity. Christianity entered into the free society of Hellenism like a virus into the Hellenic and the Roman civilization, which is the same. This system, they say, is not to be changed. It needs to be removed. And gentlemen, we have a guy here in Greece that has indicted Christianity as a criminal organization. We won't go on further on this subject, and we won't make any more quotes because we drove the nail through our subject, and we made it clear that the present day situation is none other than it is a condition of paranoid people Is it Christianity responsible for all our today condition? It is because they have everything made a metacosmesis. Metacosmesis in Democritus means the change of the shape of universe. This is they cannot be changed. The atoms cannot be changed. The universe it is eternal. But even if it changes, says Democritus, it always will fall back and come back into its original state. But what about if the material world, corporeal world, is not to be changed? A bunch of criminals, they did it in the mental state of human mind. They did it the metacosmesis, in mentality. They changed the people, minds, the culture, and they made them to hate their background, their ancestors, their history, and become Christians or Muslims, or else they will be executed. This is mental metacosmesis, gentlemen, and that's what we are running today. And we have this little problem on our computer. The screen falls. Okay. Reading the Bertrand Russell's Dictionary of Mind, Matter and Morals on the nature of the nation, he says that nation means what constitutes a nation is a sentiment and an instinct, a sentiment of similarity and an instinct of belonging to the same group or herd. Under this explanation, gentlemen, I find a handwriting of the Trajinian philosopher, who he writes by itself his peace of mind on this, and he writes as follows: nation is a composite of one kind of qualities, and not abstract meanings as sentiment. Nation, therefore, is a reciprocal get-togetherness of individuals who share and aspire the same hopes, of the same goals. They have it. Yes. And all this are done by free will. These nations is an anathema for the criminals. And we have a guy here called Inomaos, a Hellenic name, that is a Hellenistic Jew. Hellenistic Jew. He writes. He wrote a book called Goiton Phora. That means apocalypse of the wrong man. of the deceiver, of the liar. And deceivers and liars he calls the philosophers. He attacks the philosophers, this guy. That book, the catacomb, the monks and the priests used it for their own use. They use it for their own polemics against the Hellenism, Romans, Egyptians, even their own Jews. Their own Jews, because, you know, gentlemen, Jews were having their traditional culture until 165, until 165, before Apollonius. Until then, the Jewish people were practicing their traditional culture. From that time on, then they changed under the terror attacks, under the violence of the Levitic caste. Levites priesthood, they play a big role to convert other force and persecution and exclusion from the society, those who still remain Hellenistic in culture. They have Hellenic names or Roman names. Therefore, the supralapsarians, says Russell in his dictionary, is says about it. They may even find a justification of the agent provocateur in the theology of the supralapsarians, who held that God placed man in circumstances which made it certain that he would sin, in order that his creator might have the opportunity of exercising the virtue of justice by punishing him. Another fabrication of the divinity. The Sophocles in his Antigone says that many humans bad condition, many are humanity's faults and sufferings, but nothing is more than the human being by itself, worse than everything else. He considers the man is the more terrible thing than anything else. Searching about Christian falsehood is inexhaustible. I like to go to the old sources, because it shows how many years, how hundreds of years all this research has been done, and humanity has never learned from it to correct itself and find its way to peace of mind, prosperity, peace, and enjoy his short span of life. I want to refer again to that great free mind Voltaire, in his lexicon, and says about Christianity. He says that JC, Jesus Christ, allegedly wrote letters. He wrote many letters. One of these was survived, the one that he sent to the king of Edessa, of God. But at that time there was no king of God live. He was not there was not a king like that. And you know something, gentlemen? Lately I saw on the local site on internet a local guy who aspires to be a politician, a leader of a political party. He has founded the Christian values. He wants to resurrect the Byzantine Empire, and he wants to make ties and cooperate with the Russian president Putin, because Putin is a distinct Christian, and he shows it in any circumstances. And this guy tries to web ties, to cast bridges along the time, and to create something parallel with Putin's party in Greece. This guy, he came on the internet, and he showed that letter of JC, and with a flaming face and eyes, telling in excitement, with the spur of revelation, that he holds in his head that divine letter. And he was waving on the screen for us to be able to strike us in awe. Voltaire continues to say that they have also corrupted Sibyl's commands, words. They have written 50 Gospels, 50 different Gospels, which they were called pseudo-Gospels. They publish false letters of Seneca that were addressing to Apostle Paul. That's why we have heard that Seneca was a Christian. I have heard that before, and I was quite perplexed, but now came to light that it's part of the scheme. And Voltaire verbatim says, so many lies constructed from stupid Christians who are fed upon the zealous desire for their belief. They invented pseudo-gospels, pseudo-miracles, and thousands other lies. Baron de Holbach, that German rich man and free mind, who in 1716 he wrote a book about the three men, Moses, Christ, and Muhammad. And he says, historically, only Muhammad is a historical person. That's correct. So, gentlemen, we well, I have to mention something else in detail, a little more detail about Philon, the Bible, the Biblos man. That's interesting as well. This guy, he says, that he discovered a handwritten papyrus. I'll try to bring out the picture. He discovered a handwritten papyrus in Greek. Which it came from a Semitic source, he says. And which this source has been tied up with the Trojan War. Philon says that he had translated that papyrus chronicle. That one, he says, belonged to the Semite guy, Sanhu Dathon. I think the name is quite known, I guess. And this paper, it shows that the Greeks, they made mistakes in very many parts of the narrative. Of course, he refers to Homer. So, I guess this work has done its purpose, and I approach these works as Pagali Pedia, as Platon says, enjoying an enjoyable activity, enjoyable mental activity. That's what education is. It's not a press, a compartmental schedule of knowledge. It is coming to people with free doses of inspiration, because you're looking for it, you want it, you feel you need it, not because you have to, you must. If humanity had a different approach and had got rid of the garbage that exists in his mind, in his brain, that is a wasted material, he would have been able to use constructive knowledge for his own benefit. And we can see today around us, the injury, the goods, our environment is suffering from our attitude and our mental condition. We will do the next one segment of this tetralogy that will show again epigrammatically how the good, the beneficial, the agathon, the pure, was chased and executed and was eliminated from the history of our world to our own detrimental. Meanwhile, I like to show you now some works which are to be to your availability, to be available to you, to be able to go back and find out and search for yourselves and get more details about what we are talking today. This is the time we have been shaking hands with the devil for the last 1,600 years, and enough is enough. But it's not enough anymore. It is rotten to the core. And we saw here the pantheon, that divinities which are all the benefits for humanity. They were part of their artistry, of their idiocracy. Each one of them had a specific, have still now, because they still exist. They are still available for humanity to take advantage of it, because these well-beings, they are what they have. It's for us to use and make our lives easier and happier. This pantheon, with the supreme god of Zeus, with the many names, protector of children, of nations, of virtue. Even his own son, Ares, the god of war, was to be hated by his father. Zeus was hating Ares because he was a bloodthirsty divinity. But of course, that was a necessity for humans, because humans, as they are stupid and they are short-lived. That's why they have a short life. Imagine this kind of man to be able to live thousands of years. They will have turned upside down the universe, and this is Ares. This is the god of wisdom, of poetry, of music, of prophecy. There is one of the sons, Achilles. His mother was the Nereid Thetis, and his father Peleus. There is another one. This is Heracles. And we say we saying things that the gods have their own sons, still exists today. We try to continue. Behind the professor's table we see a bust. Can you recognize that bust? This is Homer. And there we come to the criminal cast of people. This is the original, the Orthodox Christian catacomb. The one that persecuted Hellenism, the one that set up the concentration camp in Scythopolis in Palestine, and Hellenists from 2 million to 2.5, they were exterminated. Philosophers were tortured. We have original sources about them. Then they came, the next one, the Western Catholic catacomb. They built their catacomb upon the Pantheon, I guess, or the Roman table, Hellenic table in Rome. This is who continue the whole Inquisition. Presidents, prime ministers became cahoots with the leaders of the churches of the catacombs. This is the renowned US president, you know who, Bush. This is another renowned president of Russia. We're talking about Putin, among those dark figures. They casting the evil shadow from the time of the Byzantine Empire. This is a pseudo-Greek Prime Minister Semitis, pay homage and a paternity to the to this archbishop. This is another one among Christians and Muslims. And this is the renowned book of Bob Baruchak, which gives the final nail, drives the final nail upon that fake, false and phony, as Dave of the X22 report correctly mentions. That's his trademark. This is a pseudo-calisthenics element with Alexandros Dramatic Stories, pseudo-calisthenics book. There is another guy, the Greek Paparigopoulos, who continues the pseudo-history of Dictys, of the quail, etc. He tries here to say he is an apologetic book. He tries to overthrow the work of Almerayer, that Hellas has been overrun by Slavic tribes. He tries to make a scientific antilogos, but the guy fell victim to his own how you call it, unbelievers, the heretic, yeah, to his own heretic work. This is the work also of Baron de Holbach in the Greek, translated. Gary Grisberg, professor of the University of New York, wrote 101 pseudo stories of the Bible, deceptions of the Bible, about the Lloyd M. Graham, X-rated Bible. That's correct. The greatest liars. Exactly. That's right. That's the crime. That is the crime. And here I have the Jehovah's Wife by Frederick Ide. His work is interesting. Let me check it out. Mr. Ide, he knows classical Greek, just like the Bauerschak. That's why their work are so incisive and so great source of information. He says that Moses turned to the Levites, ordering them to draw their swords, and begin a systematic program against their fellow Jews, telling them to, and I quote, "Put every man his sword by his side and go in and out from gate to gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother, and every man his companion, and every man his neighbor." And the children of Levi did accordingly to the word of Moses. And there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men. Exodus 32:27-28. Elijah, that great tyrant, gentlemen, that great persecutor, was convinced that all pain was the result of worshipping other gods. Kings 18:4. Elijah, a mass murderer with cold-blooded premeditation, he personally executed the 450 priests of Baal and his consort, making Elijah one of the history's greatest mass murderers. 1 Kings 18:40. Listen to this, interesting. Gideon destroys the temple of Baal that his father Joash, a Manassehite, had erected. His father erected the temple, and the guy who was converted to Levitism destroyed it. That is in Judges 6:11, 29-31, 7:14, 8:13, 29 and 32. There is no need to mention here that says, Mr. Ide says that there's no evidence of the Exodus. And this is a history taken from Levi's a book on Aeneid concerning the Greek immigrations. Also they usurp Plutarch's Isis and Osiris, Orphics, the hymn, Orphics hymn, Euripides' Bacchae, Νικάντερ Αλεξιφάρμακα, Χειρόντοτος, Απολόδωρος, Αριστοφάνης Frogs, just to mention a few. There is the short thing about the work of Mr. Hyde that was written in 1991. Yes, the historical view, Michael Grant. This is a serious historian, okay? The peril of the faith, the tortures, this is, says, orthodoxy or death in Greek. When the monks and priests want to can complain or demonstrate, they bring on the street this kind of messages. Orthodoxy or death. Yes, that was completed. They had to their disposal 1,600 years. And this is the true story. They built their future upon a heap of craniums. The first guy says, whoever is a sinful man, let him throw the first stone. And the priest says, don't worry, my son, this is not a stone, it's a cranium. And this is the renowned work of Karl Heinz Dessner, The Criminal History of Christianity, translated into Greek from Cactus, Publishing House. This is another thing in the Greek that says the devastation of the Hellenic civilization, the destruction of the remaining remnants of the Hellenic ruins, tables, columns, statues. This is a very thorough research and quite accommodating. There is another work from the Greeks, the Hellenists, who have done a very good job on this. They drew on the statues the sign of the cross. Catacombs built with remnants of the Greek marbles coming from the ruins. And all these states, they became failed states. Chomsky is talking about economics, but we're talking about the mental states of humanity, the Western world, I mean, always. Failed states, these technical states, it's about time to be crumble, to go into ashes and dust. And Grayling, eventually bright people, they took that choice of Heracles, not the easy one. The easy one, they took it, the Christianity and Muslims took the easy path into their lives. That's why they stole, they destroyed whatever they found in the traditional cultures. And the rich ones like Hellenism and Romans, temples and buildings. They confiscated, they took it, and they became rich. Livanius says about this with tears in his eyes, what those criminals and those pigs, they call them, they did it to the Hellenists. And so today people, academicians and laymen, took the hard way to their lives, and they become truthful to themselves, like Baruch Spinoza, the Jewish man who became a free spirit, persecuted, excommunicated, became an outcast from their own people. Frederick II, that great king of Prus, of Prussia, Diderot, the encyclopedists, Baron de Holbach, and the great of them all, Nietzsche, the greatest of them all. Voltaire, another one. Bertrand Russell, who was persecuted, lost his position in the United States. He came and he was fired because he was a free man. He was a free man, and he went back to England. Oh, that perennial, the unknown Robert Ingersoll. People don't know him, but he was a giant. The magnificent, true. This element is the Winkelmann. The Winkelmann. Friedrich read about him in Winkelmann, what he did. In defense. So we came to an end. But all this today is thrown into the garbage. But it's no good. It's no good because it has been told thousands of times for hundreds of years with no benefit to no one. Shake hands with the devil. Yes, the devil reigns supreme. What Trakaelel and Ahanaton did, the Orthodox Christian Church did it for Hellenism. For 1,000 of years they were working on it to erase it from the face of the earth and rewrite the Hellenic history on their own terms. They hate Hellenism to the core, and Marx said they hate it because Hellenism is a superior civilization. It's a mirror where Christianity looking at it, and their face is reflected, and what they see is not good. They see themselves, but it's not good. It's not the way they were thinking of they would look like. And Hellenism is there to tell them that they have a devil face. So we have been shaking hands with the devil for so many years. It's about time humanity to go to Demis itself or not.